Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.
Good afternoon. Welcome to class. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, and welcome to Financial Focus University. I am currently the CEO of a wonderful online financial advisory firm called RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors. Some might know me as the founding father of a wonderful money management firm called the Financial Advisors Group. And some of you might know me in real class as I teach economics and business for Herbert H. Lehman College as well as Monroe College. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very nice curriculum for you today. And let me again suggest that you grab your pen, as we will be talking about financial news, market information, and a very special how-to segment. Bidenomics this week will be covering the events for the week and how both the stock market and the bond market did. You will be very surprised. And then our second and last segment is really a two-part segment, so definitely grab your pen and paper. It is called How to Execute on Federal Income Tax Planning, or in layman's terms, how do I get as much money back as possible, right? Well, get ready. We're going to cover that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Bidenomics for the week. I'm going to ask you to bear with us as we get the slides up, but I will start with a summary. You know, the only reason, ladies and gentlemen, we call it Bidenomics is because it's named after the president. It's nothing personal. You know, it could be Trump-onics, it could be Carolyn Maloney-onics, right? So, but our president does lead the federal charge. So when it's good news, right, he wants to take the credit. When it's bad news, well, he's got to take the blame. Will some of it be his? Probably. Some probably not, right? We define all that. So remember, when we talk about Bidenomics, we're not just talking about news, but we're talking about the markets, right? The financial markets. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you may or may not know this, but as a former 30-year money manager, let me be the first to tell you, the market moves every day. The stock market and the bond market, right? Anything that's not 100% fixed moves with market value. And 50% of that is true. All the information, the financial information that our government gets and receives and sends is true. The other 50% is what we call hype, right? It's just hype, right? This might happen. This is speculation. You might watch some of the other financial cable shows, right? Where they get more into speculation, right? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And you want to know the scary part about all those ifs? People start to believe them. And then the hype like really starts to come true. So this week, as you see on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, I think we really had a combination of both, right? When we talk about banking sheets, right? What I mean by mixed is that their revenues, their earnings, their expenses, you know, were all not good. Most banks are now losing money. There are some that are looking well. Many of them are not looking well. Second, Netflix, right? Now, here comes a perfect combination of an example of what I'm talking about. Netflix had a good and a bad day. Let's take the bad day part of it first. Netflix announced their earnings this week. They were, in my opinion, not good. They actually lost subscriber growth. I understand layoffs will be forthcoming, but guess what? Wall Street said they expected them to lose this much in customers, not this much, right? So because they lost less than the estimate, Well, the market's interpreted, therefore, that is being good. And you might have heard during the week that Netflix went as high as 9% during the course of the week, right? So let's get to some real news. Jobless claims. Well, jobless claims, ladies and gentlemen, again went up. That means the unemployment line went up again, right? And now a pattern is starting to seriously establish itself. We're now having a jobless claim indicator that is at its highest level since November. That is not a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. And to top it all off, what did we get at the end of the week? We got a fist pump. We got a fist pump from the President of the United States. That, ladies and gentlemen, you should know they were debating all week. How should he greet the, I don't know, what is he, the president? I know he's got another title, right? So I apologize. But, they were debating all week. How should they greet? Should they give a hug? Should they give a handshake? Should they give a fist pump? Should they just bow to each other? Well, two things happened. We woke up in the morning, bang, it was a fist pump. We went to bed that night. We found out the president had COVID. Is it related? Hype, spec, hype, truth. What a crazy week, ladies and gentlemen, right? We had all this hype, all this truth. The markets were going titty-so all week. So how did it go during the course of the week? Well, when we look at the next slide, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see on Monday, we started to go down. We went down 0.6%. On Tuesday, on the next slide, we went up, ladies and gentlemen. We went up 2.6%. On Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, we went up again. We went up 0.7%. We're looking real good now, ain't we? And then on Thursday, we went up again. We went up 3 days in a row, 0.6%. In 3 days, we went up 3.9%. Okay, I even heard from the Bob Press Club, the manager of the Gloom and Doom Index, he was ready to go on vacation until today. Today, he found out he lost 1.2%. So another crazy week in the market, folks, because as you can see, we started going down, then we went up, we went down again. What does it all mean? Just like the prior indicators, what does it all mean? When we go to the next slide, let's see if we can figure it all out. So when we look at the market for the week, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We had a great week. We were up 2.1% for the week. So your stock market indicators did wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the bond market. Let's look at the 2-year and the 10-year treasuries. Last week, the 2-year treasury was at 3.13%. This week, it's now at 2.99%. What does that mean? It means it's going down, right? Well, that's good and bad, right? That's good and bad because what it means is that it's a signal that the economy is cooling. And then when we look at our 10-year treasury, the longer term version, and you'll see last week it was at 2.92%. This week it went down as well. It went down 2.77%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the only good thing about that track is that they're both going down together, right? So remember, like we talked about before, right? We want it to go up together too, right? That's a sign of a healthy economy. Well, right now they're both going down. But, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring to you the biggest worry right here. Look at the 2-year rate today. Look at the 10-year rate today. And you're walking into a local bank. And you say, how much do I get for a 2-year CD? And they tell you 2.99%. And you look at the chart and you see a 10-year CD. And that 10-year CD is actually paying less than the 2-year CD at 2.77%. That is, ladies and gentlemen, what we call an inverted yield curve. And in my opinion, it's a very dangerous sign for the future. So, of course, your financial advisor should keep track of that. So how did we do year to date? From January 1 to today, 27 weeks. For 27 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, the markets are doing bad. They are at a negative 14.1%. We made 2.1 for the week, but we're still down for the year, 14.1%. And our wonderful friend, Mr. Bob Press from the Bob Press Blooming Index Club, says, I'm all in, I'm still all in. And he's only down 7.5%. Ladies and gentlemen, the moral of this story, as you heard me say a little while ago, it was an ugly, ugly informational week in the sense that hype and fact both ruled the market. What will make it dangerous next week? There ain't going to be too much hype because there's a lot of real-time economic numbers that are coming out next week. Let's hope we have a good week. Hope to see you then. We'll be back in a moment.
America Open Market, AO Market, the best digital market for humanity, is a free multilingual borderless market open to international sellers with various languages included. With America Open Market, you may start selling in minutes after filling out the form. Comprehensive dashboard where you understand your sales, orders, and customers is available. You get paid directly, securely, and instantly on the America Open Market. You can sell your house, car, electronic laptop, CD player, boombox, phone, headphones, furniture, and clothing, and anything on AmericaOpenMarket.com where all your sales and customer needs are met. Register as a merchant today. You will not regret becoming a vendor at America Open Market. For further inquiries, contact us at aomarket@gmail.com. AO Market, best digital marketplace for humanity.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now that we've covered the financial news segment of our show, let's get to my favorite part, the educational part, the personal finance part of the show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me say two quick things right off the bat about this upcoming segment, and I hope you're grabbing a pen and paper. Personal finance is a very comprehensive subject. You know, it's about teaching and educating. And it's very hard to do that in a 15-20-minute segment. But today we're going to talk about executing on learning your federal income tax forms. Those forms having to do with tax deductions. Or in layman's terms, ladies and gentlemen, how do I get the most money back, right? Well, that's not called tax preparation. That's called income tax planning. So last week we talked about why. Why should we have income tax planning? Well, we're going to talk about that, and now we're going to talk about federal income tax planning. So grab that pen and let's go to the first slide. So if you were with us last week, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see on the next slide that we talked about what is income tax planning. And what we talked about was that in very simple terms, it was about minimizing your income tax liability, right? And when we talked about that, we talked about those three advantages that are right now you're looking at. You want to find income tax deductions, credits, and exemptions. Now, income tax deductions, which cover most of the IRS code, you get what is called your tax bracket deduction back. So if you're in the federal, city, and state tax bracket of between 30 to 40%, which most New Yorkers, for example, are, well, any tax deduction that applies to you, you get 30 to 40 cents of that back. Can you get more? Sure you can. Through tax credits or tax exemptions, they give you 100% of your money back. But you should know in the IRS code, that covers only 30% of the code, right? But we want to see if we can get as much back as possible, right? So when we go to the next slide, remember, ladies and gentlemen, last week when we talked about tax planning, I said to you there were really 4 types, right? First one we're going to cover today, which is federal income tax planning. The second one, which we're going to cover next week, has to do with retirement planning. The third one, which we'll cover the week after, has to do with estate planning. And then we're going to finally get to small business planning. So when we get to the next slide, let's talk about federal income tax planning. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about federal income tax planning, and please grab a pen, write this down, and let's go to the next slide. You're going to see that there are the slide after. You're going to see on the next slide that there are really 3 areas that you want to look at. But these areas right here cover so many different things. So I'm going to try to give you a summary. Right? The first area we want to look at is lowering our gross income to net income. And we'll talk about some of those things on the chart in a second. Number 2, you want to itemize your deductions. You want to learn what those things are. What are they? And of course, number 3, income tax credits, right? So let's talk about some of these things. Some of these things might apply to you. If you're not talking to your income tax person about them, maybe you should start. So let's go to the first one, lowering gross income to net income. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to the next slide, to the following slide. Yeah, just stay there. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about small business. You see, I got small business up there, right? When we talk about small business areas, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about 24 sub areas that if you're eligible, if you have a home-based business, if you have a storefront, you can deduct things like rent, utilities, supplies, advertising, promotion. There are up to 24 areas in the tax code that allow you to write off the income that you're making from your small business. Second area, you'll see I got rental expenses, right? Well, if there's anyone out there that's renting out property, right? Maybe they're renting out a room, maybe they're renting out a home. Well, guess what? You're receiving income. That's got to go on your taxes. Guess what? You got rental expenses. You're able to write that off. And ladies and gentlemen, with the small business area and the rental area that I'm talking about, these are tax credits. These are your 100% deductible areas. So in the rental department, right, we could be looking at supplies. We could be looking at home furnishing. We could be looking at paying utilities. We could be paying gas and electric, right? There are up to 18 areas that cover rental expenses. You should learn those things now. When I see clients and just talk about 2 of these things, I'm with them for at least an hour. So I'll give you my number at the end of the show. Third area, investment expenses. Well, if you have investments, congratulations. If you're making income, congratulations. If you're making income, you probably have to report it on your tax return. You also should have, therefore, investment expenses. Is your custodian charging you for anything, right? And those investment expenses are tax deductible. Health savings accounts. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not aware of it, the government created years ago a very good, in my opinion, substitute way to pay for medical expenses. When you write off medical expenses traditionally, and we'll talk about that in a moment, you get your tax bracket deduction, right? Health savings is like a tax credit. You open up an account at your local bank under the guidelines of the IRS health savings account, and as you pay for medical expenses, it is now 100%, not 40%, tax deductible. And ladies and gentlemen, last one in that area is IRA accounts. Everyone's worried about retirement planning. Many people still have IRA accounts. Well, IRAs make income. IRAs have banking or financial investment expenses. So in that first area, those are the areas, if they apply, you should have a much further discussion with your income tax advisor. Second area, itemized deductions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can take up 3 shows on this. So again, grab a pen. I'm going to go over it shortly. When we talk about itemized deductions, you'll see the first area there is medical expenses. Now, medical expenses is a very broad area because they cover a lot of broadness in medical expenses. What does that mean? I say it means everything. They cover from head to toe. So you could be looking at things like health insurance. You could be looking at things like checking your ears, checking your eyes, your nose, your mouth, glasses, prescription drugs, co-payments, so God forbid ambulatory care, and so on and so on and so on. There are many, many, many medical related areas, including supplies and expenses for, God forbid, people that have to be home, right? So medical expenses are a very important area. Taxes you pay, right? We all pay New York State taxes. We all pay our county taxes. We all pay our community and our property taxes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is tax deductible. It gets tricky here in certain states, including New York, but make sure you maximize on that. The third area, ladies and gentlemen, and forgive me because I'm losing my voice. I'm still losing it again. Student loans. There's still a lot of people out there that have student loans. I'm not going to talk about whether, the government should pay for it, all that. I don't know about all that. All I know is that you can write it off. So if you forgot or you didn't think it applies, it applies. Next area, theft. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you the story I give all my clients when it comes to robbery. When you, God forbid, if you get robbed, call the local police precinct. Why? I don't know if you're going to get your stuff back. I hope you do. But one thing I know for sure, when the police come and write a report, you want to maximize on that report. You want to add every detail of that report because that report is now your IRS receipt, right? So whatever was damaged or taken, now you have a police report that the IRS accepts as a legitimate receipt. We don't want you to get robbed, but God forbid if you do, get a report. Next area, casualty in the home. There are some areas that, God forbid, if you do have home-related expenses, you could be eligible for casualty deductions. Charity. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about charity, right, we're talking about not the old traditional charity. Yes, you can still give to your local place of worship. Yes, you can still put money in the box. But now today, it's a lot more than your local place of worship, right? Now it's the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, United Way, this way, that way, any legal established IRS charity. And of course, you can give money or you can give donated property. Now, donated property is a lot more valuable, in my opinion, than cash. Why? Because cash is a tax deduction. What did I say a tax deduction was? A tax deduction is you get your tax bracket back. If you gave $1, you get back 40 cents. 40 cents is better than nothing. How can we get more? Well, let's say I give a shirt. Let's say I give a pair of sneakers. Right? Let's say I give a car. Well, now I'm getting the market value of that item. That market value, generally speaking, is worth 50, 60% of the original value. You're not going to get the current fair market value. You're going to get a discounted value, but it's going to probably be at 50%. So why not learn how to donate property, especially if we're going to do it for the better good? I tell all my clients in November, clean out your closet in December, right? Grab that receipt, get yourself an income tax deduction. Last area in this section, job expenses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, very tricky. But according to the 2017 Donald Trump tax law, job expenses are no longer federally tax deductible. But I tell my clients all the time, depending on the state that you live in, and that includes, for example, the state of New York, you are allowed to deduct your job expenses. So what do I mean by job expenses? I mean areas that you could be eligible for that the government did not reimburse you. Those areas could mean travel. Those areas could be food. Those areas could be clothing. Again, talk to your tax preparer about it. Last area, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to talk about tax credits. Well, again, they're 100% to the dollar deductible, but there's not too many of them, right? But these two relate to school and children. So let me talk about school first, real quick. Today, it's not just college. Today, any educational university, you can forgive me, any educational school could be eligible for income tax credit. So this is something you definitely want to talk to in regards to education. Today, high school as well as college. Today, also, we're talking about children. Well, there are different tax credits, mainly based on the age of the child. If the child is a little baby, 1, 2 years old, you get a whole bunch of free money from the government called tax credits, because this is their way of helping you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But remember, as the child gets older, the income tax credits start to go down, right? So we want to keep those areas in mind. But if there are any young parents that have either children of their own or they're taking care of them in the household, this is something you really, really, really want to look at. Also in that area, I would put the earned income tax credit. It applies to low income individuals. I would say here in the state of New York, if you're making under $20,000 a year, that's something you want to look at as well. Most people today that use that credit are wonderful parents or single parents that of course claim themselves, the kids, and it's a nice way that the government helps. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know I covered a lot. It would take a couple of hours to go over this specifically, but I do hope I gave you a little bit of education today. If you need a little bit more, please feel free to give me a call, 347-575-5045. Now, before we leave, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to press the subscribe button down below. You know why? Because next week, we're going to talk about retirement planning. We're going to talk about IRAs. We're going to talk about annuities. We're going to talk about, do you know when you're going to die? And are you going to outlive your money, or is your money going to outlive you? Good question, right? I hope I have the answer for you next week. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend and be financially focused.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial